Force, Captain S.C. Pandey with SpiceJet and retired Air Force officer, Wing Commander, Captain Gurucharan Arora, Senior Vice President at SpiceJet Limited, Ms. Ekta Agarwal, Assistant Director, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, and Dr. Anil Sinha, Senior Principal Scientist, CSIR IIP. So I welcome you all once again to the webinar today. Initially, I request Director IIP, Dr. Anjan Ray, to kindly initiate the session by delivering the opening remarks and also welcome our participants and the audience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shikha. A very good afternoon to all watching this webinar from India, and morning or good evening as may be appropriate for people who have tuned in from other countries. It is a privilege to be here telling you about our journey of flying planes on biofuels. 16 years ago, I happened to be at a forum where somebody got up and said, someday soon we will fly a plane on something other than fossil fuel. And the accumulated crowd there of about 1,000 people laughed loudly. Less than 2 years later, the first biofuel flights were already off the ground. Many countries have flown biofuel flights. This year alone, we are anticipating that there'll be an average of between 5 to 10 flights per day. And there are 14 billion liters of forward purchased sustainable aviation fuel as we speak. The production of biofuel last year was approximately 100 million liters globally. And whatever is produced gets consumed almost immediately because it is low carbon fuel which combats climate change and keeps our earth and our forests pristine, as you can see behind me. It is a privilege to have with us several members of this journey that we are making for biojet fuel in India. It is not possible with one person or one organization to achieve what we have achieved and to achieve what we hope to achieve. But we do know that it is an imperative, and someday most flights in the sky, if not all, will be flying on fuels made from biological sources. With that, let me hand it back to Dr. Shikha.
Thank you so much, sir, for your crisp introduction and overview on the biojet fuel technology of CSIR IIP. So all the online friends who are connected with us, it's a very interesting topic under discussion. So you may post your comments or any queries in the chat boxes. So with this, I invite the first speaker for the webinar, Dr. Anil Sinha, Senior Principal Scientist from CSIR IIP, who has the expertise in catalyst design for organic transformation and for renewable fuels or biofuel production from biomass derived oils, for his talk describing us about the design, development and certification of the biojet fuel. Over to you, Dr. Sinha. Sir, please unmute.
Dr. Sinha, you're on mute, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm very happy to take you all on the journey that we went through in production of this sustainable aviation fuel at CSIR IIP. Our technology is a unique technology. It is a single reactor HEFA technology called hydroprocessing of used and waste oils, and it is trade named as DILSAF, that is drop-in liquid sustainable aviation and automotive fuel. So this technology, I describe briefly the chemistry of the entire process. We take any kind of non-edible oils, and globally currently there is a technology which uses conversion of this used cooking oils into first into diesel kind of product and further into jet hydrocarbons. But our unique technology does the entire process in a single catalyst and a single reactor, where we convert this used cooking oil and waste oil into the jet fuel along with diesel and gasoline fuel, meeting all the specifications required for the different road and air transportation. So in this slide, I show the journey that we went through right from the year 2008 when we started this entire concept of making biojet fuel in a single step in a single reactor at a lab scale with a very small catalyst and with a small funding. And with this journey, we had some sponsorship from DST and in a collaboration mode along with the international organizations like Pratt and Whitney, the engine manufacturers in India. We were able to produce about 600 liters of this biojet fuel, and gradually we went on scaling up this entire process right from the lab scale to the pilot bench scale, and further from about producing a few milliliters to about several liters of this fuel. And as you are aware that by year 2015, we had a first successful flight using this biofuel using a flight by SpiceJet. And our friends from SpiceJet will talk on more details about their experience using this biofuel. And further, we went on producing this fuel, and we collaborated with Indian Air Force, and with the fuel produced at our lab, we were able to have this fuel used during the Republic Day flypast with 10% of this bioaviation fuel. This was a very vibrant journey for us, and after that we got this fuel approved by Bureau of Indian Standard, and now this fuel has support from BIS, and it is now certified to be used and after that we went further, and we are now currently working for the international approval of this fuel by ASTM. And with that, we are also working continuously to have this fuel production at the larger scale, and we had a MOU with one of the refineries to produce this sustainable aviation fuel in larger scales. And also we joined hands with Engineers India Limited to do the engineering and the entire construction of the new plant. And we expect to have a commercial work of this aviation biofuel in the coming 1 to 2 years. So this is the brief summary of what happened during the civilian flight from Dehradun to Delhi on 27 August 2018. We were able to successfully demonstrate with all engine parameters satisfactorily working same as like normal Jet A1 fuel, and same kind of experience we had with even with the defense aircraft. And the features technology as it is a feedstock flexible technology, uses any kind of non-edible oils or waste oils, and like used cooking oil, and we can produce the fuel which meets all the ASTM specifications. And this is uniqueness of this technology is in a single reactor we are having nearly 6 kind of reactions happening, including a desirable cyclization and aromatization reactions. This is a single patented non-noble metal catalyst, unique in itself. And with that, we have a typical yield of this aviation biofuels ranging from 25 to 55% from this process. And we rigorously check all the properties and compositions for and find that it meets all the properties required for Jet A1 fuel. And this technology is a simple and minor variant of existing refinery hydrocracking process. And so this can be easily adapted to existing refinery infrastructure. So additionally, as I mentioned, this fuel produces a high cetane value diesel. So this makes this process economically very attractive since we have a good economical value on the cetane, high cetane diesel. And we have the additional presence of aromatics in the process varying from 6 to 15%, which makes this fuel a candidate for 100% drop in fuel. That means having this aromatics in the desired amount, we can directly use this entire fuel up to 100% in the existing aircrafts. So far, we have produced nearly about 9,500 liters of this fuel since we had a plant commissioned at IIP in 2018. And currently we are under evaluation by ASTM to have it included in the specification for aviation biofuels. This biofuel passed the rigorous inspection by Indian Air Force and National Military Airworthiness Certification Organization (SEMILAC), and now it is certified for 10% usage in all defense aircrafts. We have data generated for designing a 100 tons per day of large demonstration plant at an Indian refinery, and working along with engineers in India Limited to have this plant designed and erected at the refinery site. So currently today we are on the working towards the technology deployment by construction of this demonstration plant, and we are continuously producing this fuel for several trials and demonstrations on civil and military aircrafts. We have been producing green diesel or renewable diesel of high C10 with 100% neat diesel in our existing car at our institute, and it has been giving better performance than normal diesel. And as I mentioned, we are working towards the ASTM approval and inclusion in the ASTM certification for biofuels under a fast track approval process. And we believe that in coming 1 year, we will be ASTM certified to have international use of this fuel. Finally, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for your talk and giving a brief overview about the beginning of the project, the timelines approached, and the approvals gained for use of this biojet fuel as an aviation fuel. So we have a video to showcase here where SpiceJet Limited operated first test flight powered by this biojet fuel. So I'll be sharing the video. So it's very nice to have a look how SpiceJet has used this biofuel. So we are also connected with flying experts from SpiceJet, Captain Gurcharan Arora, its Senior Vice President for Flight Operations, and Captain S.C. Pandey, ex-Air Force officer, Wing Commander retired. So currently he is with SpiceJet. We would like to hear from both of you, sir, about your experiences. So we will start with Captain Arora. Over to you, please.
Good afternoon, ma'am, and thank you so much. First, a little bit about SpiceJet. We started in 2005 and we fly the Boeing 737 and the Canadian de Havilland Q400 turboprop aircraft. Our chairman, he's from IIT Delhi, and he's a very strong advocate of adopting any process that reduces our carbon footprint. In 2017, he created a team led by Mr. Kamal Hingorani, our Chief Customer Officer, and we called it the Biofuel Task Force. Our research was primarily internet-based. And thanks to our research, it led us to the doorstep of Indian Institute of Petroleum. We reached the Indian Institute of Petroleum and met Dr. Anjan Ray, the director, in October 2017. And that time, our primary aim was to figure out how to bring biofuel into our ground vehicles, which operate at the airport, with a small secondary interest that may be for the aeroplanes as well. So after he briefed us in October 2017, we realized that it's possible to induct biofuel into aeroplanes. because he showed us his lab. He introduced us to his scientists led by Dr. Sinha. And since they were already manufacturing a biofuel via a process which was created by them, we then took on this project. Of course, we had our reservations because there's a lot of regulatory approvals required. So after we learnt about the fuel, about its compliance with DE 7566 standards, we came back to Delhi and we visited the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, and we met the Joint DG, the Joint Director General, Dr. Lalit Gupta. Now, they say luck favors the brave. Dr. Lalit Gupta himself is an alumni aeronautics from IIT Kanpur. We did not know he had already done a lot of research on biofuel earlier. He had published papers on it, and he was very, very happy with the idea. So he promised us full support. So now you see, now we had the support of our chairman, of Dr. Anjan Ray and IIP, and Dr. Lalit Gupta, Joint Director General, DGC. So now we knew that it's viable. So then we got down to work. First thing was getting the fuel tested. So we got it tested by 3 different labs that it meets the specs. Simultaneously, we started speaking with the engine manufacturer, Pratt & Whitney Canada, and the aeroplane manufacturer, de Havilland. Because obviously you need to have all the stakeholders on board when you're going to do something like this. So that took a few months, but they also did their due diligence and gave us the green signal thereafter. We compiled all the paperwork, went back to DGCA, the whole team got together, scrutinized it, and found it to be a viable project. So we got our permission to do a Biojet fuel flight. So then, along with Dr. Lalit Gupta, Joint DG, we went to Dehradun, took one aircraft there, because that's where IIP is. And by that time, they had manufactured 276 kgs of biofuel in their lab for us. It's a drop-in fuel, so we put it into the right tank for the right engine in a 25-75 mix. And first, a little run to make sure that it's safe, viable, all parameters are within limits. And then the next day, we did a 1-hour proper data collection flight from Dehradun to Delhi. We got a lot of data on this flight, took it to the lab, went back, analyzed it, and it was perfect. If anything, the performance with the biofuel was a little bit better than with fossil fuel. So that was fantastic. And the whole intention was to demonstrate a proof of concept that, number one, a sustainable aviation fuel can be manufactured in India with a process which is purely an Indian process developed by IIP Dehradun. Secondly, safe to fly, the engines run perfectly with this fuel, so commercially viable. It was, we believe it was a very significant step. We submitted our report to the government. The government was very happy with it. The DGC was very happy with it. So now our next looking forward from our side is refineries to start manufacturing this fuel produced by this process on a large scale. Just to give you a context, India is consuming 10,000 tons of fossil fuel a day, 10,000 tons a day. Even if 10% of that, 1,000 tons a day, can be sustainable aviation fuel, we will reduce our carbon footprint by 3,000 tons per day. This is just to keep in perspective. We, of course, would like a larger percentage, but for starters, we would like to start consuming 10% of sustainable aviation fuel in the Indian civil aviation scenario. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. So it was, it's always really interesting to know about the stories and how the program began and how it has come to this point. So we would also like to hear from Captain S.C. Pandey. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, I'm a retired Indian Air Force pilot. After having served for approximately little less than 22 years, I took a premature retirement in April 1999. Thereafter, I was flying for corporate, including Tata Aviation, state governments, that is UP government, followed by commercial airlines, and finally I joined SpiceJet on March 2012. Now, I still remember that day when I got a call from the flight operation asking me to do this first biofuel test flight in India, which was to be done on 26, followed by a normal flight from Dehradun to Delhi on 27 with some VIPs or senior dignitaries on board. I landed up, I was positioned in Dehradun on 26. After reaching there, we carried out a lot of preparations before we getting airborne for this test flight, taking into account the high terrain there, the weather which changes very fast there, and other precautions, including that in case of any emergency. So all these things having taken into account, we got airborne from Dehradun, climbed up to approximately 14,000 feet, close to Sarsawa airfield. We carried out all kind of maneuvers as asked by the DGCA. Mr. Lalit Gupta was on board, carried out the performance check of both the engines as Captain Guruchan Arora said. In fact, the performance of this engine, which was filled up with the biofuel of 25%, was better than the normal fuel, aviation fuel. So after having done some checks on both the engines, maneuvers as asked by Mr. Lalit Gupta, we finally landed back at Dehradun after having flown for approximately 35 minutes. Landed back safely. I remember that day for personal reason. That happened to be that day, 26th of Raksha Bandhan. And my sister and brother-in-law, they reside there in Dehradun in Defense Colony. So I was very happy to go and meet them and tell them the story. Anyway, next day, 27th, inaugural flight. It was inaugurated by the then Chief Minister of Uttaranchal Pradesh, Mr. Rawat, Trajendra Singh Rawat. Thereafter, we got airborne with the senior dignitaries from DGCA, from CSIR scientists, and SpiceJet. Approximately 55 minutes, 1 hour of flying time. We landed at Delhi safely. On arrival, we were received by so many member of parliaments. That is Mr. Nitin Gadkari, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, Dr. Harshvardhan, and Mr. Anil Sinha, and all congratulated us on having done this first biofuel flight in India. And I thank Captain Guruchan Arora, who gave me this opportunity to be the first Indian captain having done so. Now, I hope in the near future we are able to produce a large scale of this commercial flight with biofuel manufactured in India, because this will give us a boost, good boost to the government's initiative, that is the Make in India initiatives program. So that's all in short. We had a good experience. Everything worked out fine, touch wood. We landed safe. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and all the best to CSI and all that stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Captain Pandey, for sharing your experience. So it's really very nice to have you here with us today. Thank you once again. So we are also connected with Ms. Ekta Agarwal, who is working as Assistant Director for Aviation Involvement Unit in the Office of the Director General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, and handle environmental issues in aviation both at domestic and international levels. She has been involved with the approvals required regarding the application of biojet fuel. So we would like to hear from you, ma'am. Over to you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. All the distinguished speakers and all the people who are watching this, all the ladies and gentlemen. I joined Aviation Environment Unit in the starting of January 2018, and my first project which was given to me was the request which we received from SpiceJet to operate a flight on biojet fuel. That is how my flight with the IIP and biofuel took off from DGCA. So we got a request from SpiceJet for the demo flight both Boeing and Q400, but later Q400 aircraft proved to be a success. So for starting with the discussion, initiating the discussions, we decided to hold a meeting with the airlines and to discuss the feasibility and requirements of this project, as it was first in it of its kind, which we have received. Till date, we haven't operated any flight on biojet fuel. So even we were not sure, we didn't have any standards, regulations at how to go about it. So for the first element was to jot down, to make a plan, to see what documents will all be required for this process. So we asked SpiceJet to submit all the technical objections from OEMs, relevant portions of AFM, test reports, everything what we can get out of this fuel. The biggest hurdle what we faced was that this fuel was not approved till that date. So for that purpose, we decided to make IOCL as partner to the project, and we asked them to conduct test on it. So, and even DGCA at its lab got it tested. So we had further discussions with IIP and SpiceJet in the month of March 2018. Though subsequent to which we also visited IIP Dehradun facility for further understanding the manufacturing, the process of manufacturing or production of fuel. And the fuel was tested at multiple times at IOCL and DGCA lab, where it was informed that blended fuel with a ration of 25 parts of biofuel to 75 of ATF can be used for the demo flight. So finally, we gained confidence and satisfaction, and after receiving all the documents required for the approval process, we decided to let's operate a demo flight, and we allowed SpiceJet that you can use the blended fuel only in one tank, another tank with complete ATF. So we granted the approvals for 2 flights to them. That one will be the 30 minutes demo test flight with a blend of 75-25 ATF Biojet, during which the pilots will examine the performance of the fuel and will monitor the engine parameters. And then second will be to carry out a 1-hour demo test flight from Dehradun to Delhi to demonstrate the proof of concept of the biofuel for commercial aircraft operations. Then on 21/08/2018, DGCA issued a letter to SpiceJet for according permission for carrying out the flight, and then the D-Day arrived, and Messrs SpiceJet operated a successful demo flight from Dehradun to Delhi on 27th August using this fuel. Engine parameters, performance, everything were normal and within limits, and as Captain Arora told, the aircraft behaved much more efficient with the use of the biofuel. So the history was made, and it was first of its kind in India. This was just the start. This flight may be of only 1 hour, but what it did for us, I would like to showcase on that. It has paved the way for our future innovations. The journey never ended. Soon we saw that Bureau of Indian Standard BIS issued standards for BioATF in January 2009. After us, the defense sector started using it. So we were the path breakers for this fuel. Then a committee got formed in the same year in MFNG to study on the use of biofuel. But due to COVID, we were not able to gear up for the availability and production of biojet fuel. But it didn't stop. In the year 2021, again a committee got formed to take further this program, and it is in everything is in final stages. Let's see what we can do for the scaling up the production of SAF in India. And why it is of importance, because we know that we are signatory to International Civil Aviation Organization, and also our airlines have to implement CORSIA, which is a global market-based measure to offset excess carbon emissions. CORSIA is not just an option, just a scheme. Even ICAO is working on the feasibility of long-term aspirational goal, which may be net zero carbon emissions by 2050, as being imposed by the Western counterparts. But in COP26, India announced it would be net zero by 2070. But again, SAF will be the only one which will be playing the major role in reducing carbon emissions and achieving the global goal of net zero. So the scheme, the CORSIA scheme, or we can say the LTAG, which will going to come, it will all have the offsetting part, and will increase in any part of from the baseline value of the CO2 emissions is going to cost through the carbon credits. So as per the study what we conducted, and we saw that it is estimated that for an airline it would be needed to purchase offset rupees 1998 crores to 10,018 crores in the high growth scenario. So it is a huge amount. So however, it has a so now how can we reduce it? It has a provision that due to the use of costly eligible fuels on our international routes, we can save this money. So that is why the staff and the upcoming market and scalability and production is of very high and utmost importance for civil aviation sector in India right now. So the primary benefit of moving to SAP, irrespective of final contours of any offsetting scheme, should be the reduction of carbon footprint, which in turn enhances environmental and health benefits in addition to the economic benefits. By meeting the challenge of switching over to SAF, India can become a leader in feedstock collection and SAF production while building technical capabilities and self-reliance in line with our Honorable Prime Minister's mantras of Atmanirbhar Bharat. I would like to thank you again for providing me this opportunity to speak, and thank you, and I'm open to any queries or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing the series of events that happened at DGCA. And also, it's really very proud for each one of us to be marked as the path breaker of any initiative. So thank you for you to join here. Next, we have Mr. Sumit Sarkar, the Chief Executive Officer of Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority, CBDA, Department of Energy, Government of Chhattisgarh, who has been involved with the supply chain of the Biojet fuel. So I invite him for the to share the comments on the technology. Over to you, please.
Sarkar Sahab, your slides need to be in slideshow mode.
Yeah, is it okay now?
No, it's not, sir. It's not in slideshow mode. I think you just stop the slideshow and just move the slides normally. Just move the slides as they are. It's okay.
I think that is better. Yeah, namaskar and good afternoon, everybody. The topic is indigenous development of biojet fuel, and my previous speakers, I think, hopefully, I liked actually what Captain Gurcharan and S.C. Pandey and Ekta have spoken. They spoke from the heart, how it happened, how we could be able to do it. So, not just by confining myself and the Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority to some words scripted in a PowerPoint presentation, I come where we started. We started with the creation of a robust rural network for collection, storage and supply of semi-finished biofuel derived from tree-borne oil.
Sir, your slides are not moving, sir. Can you please?
Yeah, is this slide visible?
No, sir, slide is visible. It is not moving. Can you exit the slideshow and just move the slides in PowerPoint?
Okay. I go to home and then come.
So you can give her the handle. Yeah, now it's all right.
It's all right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So that is where our work started, is actually creation of the robust rural network. So going back to 2015 or 16, when IIP was almost at the advanced stage of starting production of biojet aviation fuel as per A1 biojet parameters, they were searching out for the raw material, where from they can get the jatropha or other tree-borne oil seeds, non-edible oils for production of the jet aviation fuel for some demonstration flights in India. At that time, I think the Anil Sinha ji came in touch with me, and we had a primary discussion. By the time the discussion was progressing, Dr. Ray joined IIP, and it gained much more momentum. What I thought is that how to do it. So I have to take that level.
Slides. So your slides are not moving.
Yeah, no, this slide is still. I am not moving.
Right.
Okay. So I thought what to do. So let me go back to the government, to the state government, and tell them that what I am going to perform, what we are thinking. So I took out a file, made out a note sheet, and at that time I went back to the government of Chhattisgarh, to one of my additional chief secretary in the government, and told him with a lot of courage, because he was a very senior bureaucrat in the government, having a SES of a department, and also to the Honorable Chief Minister, that something like this we have conceived, and I am going to work out, because Chhattisgarh has got tremendous raw material availability of several TBOs, whether it is sal, mohua, neem, currant, kusum, jatropha, everything. And we can actually take up the collection much more at what we are here. So even my colleagues, my departmental colleagues, they were also skeptical. You are dreaming of flying in the air, and whether the state government will allow you to work on this. But somehow I was fortunate. The officer came out to be an ex-CSIR fellow. So he said, before I joining IAS, I was also with the CSIR, and I approve your file. Go and do it. I know what CSIR works and at what level they work. So the next step was signing a MOU with CSIR IIT Dehradun that we did in the month of January 2017, and the ball moved on. We could be able to set up a collection mechanism, which we say the robust rural network building a network with the stakeholders engaged at the very onset of the crop production season to boost up the collection process, and we put up some quality controls, and so that local village tahsil level storage points were created where minimum 5 to 10 metric ton of seeds can come and store, and then that to be transferred to a subdivisional or tahsil level, which is then again transported for production at our pilot scale plant. So this is the robust rural network building, and when we did it actually, we were telling that these small storage points were termed as the sub-hub, and the larger one was termed as a mother hub. So you can see...
Sir, your slides are not moving, sir. Your slides are not moving.
Yeah, is this slide now still?
No, sir, yes, the slides are not moving.
Yeah.
You're on the second slide still. So can you please move it in the slides, not in the slideshow?
Straight to the slide, which...
otherwise, can you just hand over?
Is it visible now, the Saba and Mother model?
Now it's visible, yes, sir.
It is visible, yes. So this is the model actually. This photograph shows how we work. From the village, we transported to small storage points, which are known as sub-hub, and then we transported it to the mother hub. And from there, we transported it to our production pilot plant that we are having at our CVDA facility at Raipur. This is the TBO supply chain. I think this is a better dimension, giving you how the entire thing is performed. The first, number one, you can see that the seeds are being collected. Number two are the segregation of the seeds, that is, foreign particles are being removed from it. Then number three are dried seeds are then transported from village to district level, and then the district level to our plant at Raipur, and then we are going through the quality check. Every seed we made some quality controls, like less than 12% of moisture, more than or equal to 32% of oil content, almost 98% of physical purity, and that is where all these beneficiaries, the village level stakeholders who are the real collectors, they have been mapped, their bank accounts have been mapped, and the money, that the price of the seed have been transferred directly to their bank account. That is actually the supply chain that we developed, and we are surviving till then because we established a supply chain. Till then we are again getting it. This slide shows about the quality assurance. I will not explain it.
Sir, your slides are not moving. Yeah, now it's okay.
So this is the plant seed to biofuel. This is where till date around 45,000 kilogram of semi-finished tree-borne biofuel has been sent to CSIR IIT from CBDA. And what I say is that what we did jointly with IIT is that the sky is the limit that became true. The entire thing started from technology thinking, implementing, development of the technology, taking it to that advanced level where it can happen. But the entire thing was bounded by proper supply and sustainable sourcing of the raw material, that is the semi-finished biofuel, where the role of Chhattisgarh biofuel development was actually there. But I was very fortunate that I could be able to work with CSIR IIT Dehradun, where I personally went. Even the flight that we all are speaking, I was there when the tankage was being filled. I was handling the oil pipe from the tanker. So that is how the Biojet fuel happened actually, where we could make it possible. And it is not that one single technology can perform well. As my previous speaker has said, nothing is possible without working together. That I also agree. We all worked together for this flight, and we all made it possible that it could happen. As on behalf of my state, Chhattisgarh, I could say that our farmers of Chhattisgarh are proud to be part of India's first Biojet flight. We helped make it success, and we have also helped the farmers to fetch a fair price of the crop and regain their faith on the energy crop plantation. My colleagues have better technology understanding. They will speak on altogether the technology side of this, I hope. And what we better work is to work on sustaining this practice and replicate the initiative in other parts of the country, so that the biofuel movement always keep moving. And from the side of the government of Chhattisgarh and Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority, I personally thank CSIR IIT for arranging this webinar and giving us a scope to share our working on ground. Thank you. Over.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments on your experience. So it definitely requires great collaborations for achieving some great achievements. So thank you for joining with us. We have here another interesting video to showcase from Indian Air Force, where the aircraft powered with blend of biojet fuel developed by CSIR IIP took from Leh. So I'll be sharing this video now. So we are very fortunate to connect with Group Captain Ashish Srivastav from Indian Air Force today, who is trained on Russian military transport aircrafts and who has been a part of IIT's Biojet fuel, receiving certification for use on military application of Indian Air Force. So I request Group Captain Ashish Srivastav for his talk now. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Now, I think everybody's spoken a lot about this thing, but from a purely aviator's perspective, I would like to just say a lot of research and technology goes into flying a heavier than air object. It is worth appreciating that the years of research must have gone into developing this indigenous technology of producing biojet fuel. By 2014, as Dr. Sinha just mentioned, the biojet fuel produced by his team had been already proved on ground. However, the ultimate challenge from an aviator's perspective is to prove it in air and certify its process. Due to the safety concerns related with aviation, the certification process for the airborne items is very, very intricate and with minimum tolerances. It is said that there is no parking slot in air. Therefore, a dedicated group of scientists rather and aviators like me and people from SpiceJet, led by Dr. Ray, got together in January 2018 to formulate a roadmap for testing and certifying this process. And that is where the exciting journey of flying this fuel on the Indian skies actually started with. The certification process had to be made as per the international norms, and the international norms are what? Can you just see this on the screen? Dr. Shikha, can you just confirm whether you can see the screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah, this is what is the international method of testing the aviation fuel. Unfortunately, these are not available in the country at that point of time. So what we did as Air Force is that we replaced ASTM with BIS and CEMILAC. CEMILAC is our testing and certification authority. And we replaced FA, which is their certification body in the US, with DGQA and DGCA, with Ekta, Dr. Ekta is aware of. OEM was replaced with AST, which is our testing establishment, and the BRD. We started this entire 3 steps of process, and there we had within a period of less than a year a certified document which said that this aviation fuel produced by CSIR was fit to be put into an aircraft and to be flown. And flying an aircraft of Russian origin over a thickly populated area where the VIPs were on ground required a lot of dedication, a lot of support, and a lot of sweat behind this entire process. And we are happy that on 26 January 2019, we could finally demonstrate this thing. The flight demonstrated the synergy of military aviators with civil aviators. What started with one token flight of 1 hour by SpiceJet from Delhi to Dehradun is today over 68 hours of flying with military as well as civil aircrafts on fuel produced by Dr. Sinha and his team and led by Dr. Ray. Later on, this is what we did in Leh, which was ultimate test of the endurance of both the fuel as well as the men behind this fuel. Taking off from one of the highest airfields in the world under extreme weather condition where the temperatures were around minus 18 degrees on the day that the flight took off. It was a test of both the machine, the fuel, finally, which could withstand these adversaries of the weather. The flight, like I said, demonstrated not only the synergy between the civil and the military aviators, but also the sweat behind this entire project. This project also is a testimony of the jointmanship of various ministries, organizations who work together in achieving this national objective, if I can name it so. I believe it has marked India's presence in the international aviation ecosystem as being capable to not only develop, test and certify technologies for airborne application. As it is said, coming together is just a beginning, but working together is success. Hope the success story of CSIR is replicated in future for many such more projects. With that, I hand you back to Dr. Shikha, please.
Thank you very much, sir, for your talk and for your wishes. So we are also connected with Mr. YB Ramakrishna, who is a member expert of the National Working Group on Biofuels at Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And I request Mr. YB Ramakrishna for his talk now. Over to you, please.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Let me at the outset thank the entire CSIR IFP team for having achieved this feat, and also for having invited me to share my views today. My journey with CSR IIP started in 2009 as the chairman of the task force on the Karnataka Biofuel. I was visiting IIP Dehradun to basically discuss with them on developing a decentralized production technology of biodiesel. The then director, was kind of telling me that, look, we have very limited feedstock that is available, and the same feedstock that you require for biodiesel production is also required for Biojet, and the Biojet program will be able to absorb all the feedstock that is available in the country at this point of time. And he was talking about the importance of Biojet fuel. I was a little skeptical because I went there basically looking at technology for biodiesel production. But then exactly 9 years later, when I was invited by Dr. Anjan Ray to visit the facility, I was surprised to find that not only the technology was available and for the biojet fuel, but substantial quantities of biojet fuel had already been produced, and IIP Dehradun was already in talks with SpiceJet, Indian Air Force, DGCA for the test flight. And it's part of the history that a few months later, when the SpiceJet flight was flown, I happened to be on that flight too. So in matter of about 10 years, whatever was being conceptualized in 2008-9, not only materialized in 2018, I happened to be on the flight that was test flown from Dehradun to Delhi. In my opinion, the journey has just begun, and we still have a very long way to go. There are three important milestones that we really need to cover. The first biggest challenge that we have is with regard to the feedstock. Thanks to the way the feedstock requirement for our production at small scale has been taken care of by Chhattisgarh Biofuel Development Authority. As rightly mentioned by Sumit Sarkar, we got to have a national program for the production of feedstock. That is very important if we are really looking at energy security for the country. The second aspect is that the technology which has been demonstrated at IIP, it needs to be scaled. So when we are talking about scaling, there are going to be technological challenges, and then we have to soon arrive at a time where the volume production of biojet fuel based on the IIP technology is going to happen. And the other most important aspect is the kind of policy framework. It is high time. When the flight landed in Delhi, we had 5 senior cabinet ministers of Government of India came there to receive the flight. That showed the kind of importance that the Government of India had attached to the biofuel jet program. But the important aspect is that there were some promises at that point of time with regard to the SAF policy, and today we are yet to see the policy in place. Not only the policy, we had to also create a clear roadmap, which is in tune with the expectations of CORSIA. When we do that, and when we start producing biojet fuel in volumes, the kind of implications it has is fantastic. In addition to reducing the carbon footprint in the aviation sector, what is important to make India as a biggest aviation hub is availability of the biojet fuel. So that becomes very important, and probably in the next 8 to 10 years' time, we got to make sure that huge quantities of this biojet fuel is available, so that all the international, domestic as well as international players in the aviation sector will have access to this fuel. So it will be in addition to reducing the carbon footprint, in order to increase the traffic and making India as an important hub, it will be very important that we take the program to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your experience and also informing about the roadmaps ahead. So it was really great connecting with you and all the speakers today for your talks and sharing information on the technology and application and certification of this India's biojet fuel. So now we keep this forum open for the speakers to interact, and also we'll take few questions from the audience. Just check. So we have one of our viewer who is asking, who is first of all saying, great job, sir. Cooking oil to jet fuel using catalyst. So low or slow to high or fast energy. So is it possible to enhance the energy level using right catalyst? Is this general or some limits exist?
Dr. Sinha, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think this catalyst converts exactly this vegetable oils in the hydrocarbons with high energy. So this is the catalyst itself is designed to have maximum energy out of vegetable oil for producing aviation biofuels.
So it's catalyst that depends on.
Yes, exactly. The catalyst does it.
Sir, I want to know about the commercial prospects in the future for this biojet fuel.
So globally, as I mentioned at the start, we already have, there are several producers today, about 9 producers in the world, and close to 100 million liters being produced last year. So commercial prospects are very good. At the moment, biojet fuel commands a premium because demand is so much higher than supply and the feedstock is relatively scarce. But as we invest in feedstock development, so if every person on this seminar and every person they could influence collects their waste cooking oil and tells their restaurants, halwais, and everyone to collect the waste cooking oil, we can easily bring down the price and increase the availability of biojet.
Okay, so sir, one more thing, like how India is working towards the refinery for starting, connecting with the refineries to start manufacturing of this biojet fuel.
I think we should be making an announcement soon. We are working with 3 companies now, including a public sector refinery in South India, to set up biojet fuel plants. And the engineering work on these plants has already commenced. So it is a matter of time before the policy framework, the economics, and the supply chain come together. And I'm sure that by 2024, certainly, there will be indigenous production of biojet in the country.
Okay. So thank you very much, sir. I don't think we have any further question as of now. So thank you everyone for joining with us. It was really great listening to all the speakers and was interesting to know about India's own biojet fuel. So that will greatly help in reducing India's import dependency and is definitely a strong step toward Atmanirbhar Bharat. So with this, we are coming towards the end of the session. And once again, I request Director IIP Dr. Anjan Ray to kindly deliver the closing remarks for the session. So please.
Thank you, Dr. Shikha, and thank you to all my fellow participants and fellow travelers on this exciting journey in the country. We had, when we started out, we really did not know how far we could go. And now that we've reached where we are, we can see that even the sky is not the limit. Maybe someday we'll be doing rocket biofuels. Who knows? I would like to encourage everyone who's listening to this webinar, either live or later, to look at sustainable supply chains, to help collect all the waste oils and to reduce the amount of waste we generate. The more sustainable our lifestyle, the better chance we have of making a success of biodiesel. I want to particularly thank our certifying and compliance agencies, CEMILAC and DGAQA and DGCA, and our partners, Air Force, SpiceJet, CBDA, and everyone else who's been involved in this absolutely massive effort. So once again, thank you for being with us this afternoon and spending your time with us. I hope that you enjoyed sharing this little journey of our sustainable flight with you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, sir, for the closing remarks and summarizing the session. So goodbye for now. Everyone take care of yourself and your health. So thank you for connecting with us. Namaskar.
Thank you.